Welcome back. We're talking about fractional ownership in real estate, where you don't need to buy the entire property if you can't afford it. You can now buy a small portion of it or units of it. And we're talking to four gentlemen who are a part of this ecosystem. We have a lot of queries that have come in from our viewers, our followers. So let's get straight to it. Mukul Kapoor has written to us where he says that residential yields are very low in fractional ownership. What is your view on that? Gulam, I want to come to you on this because, I mean, I'm sure, he's talking about the fact that in general, residential yields are very low in India, right? It's not just about fractional ownership. Your thoughts?
Indeed, Sonia, and that's exactly what I was referring to. We need to do a lot of awareness campaigns around it, because on one side, the concept that residential yield is about 2 to 3% has been kind of drilled into the mindsets of everybody around. And that is something which needs huge change, because all these fractional ownership concepts, and especially the small SM REITs that is now SEBI has launched, is actually opening up a new arena altogether, as I said earlier. But all of us, all stakeholders have to come together and educate investors that this is a different asset class, not comparable to what you would do on your own. Because then you're bringing in experts who are actually going to manage the property. You don't have to take all that pressure. Somebody else is doing it for you more professionally and getting you better returns than what you could have done at 2 or 3% that you would have done on your own. So that change has to be brought about and to be brought into the market. And the step today is definitely going in that direction to educate individuals out there.
Okay, there's another query coming in from Bopanna Munappa, who says that under the residential segment, are RERA approved plotted developments and farm plots a part of SEBI defined fractional investment? Anand, do you want to take that query?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. By and large, today in the SM REIT structure, it is very clear that the property has to be ready and the property needs to be income generating property. So a plot, more so let alone farm plots, I don't think can be made into a SM REIT structure per se. It needs to be income generating.
Oops, I think there's some issue with your video. I can't either see you or hear you well. So I'm going to, I understood your point though. You were saying that, a plot, a general plot or even a farm plot cannot come under the REIT structure. Got that. Sameep Datta has written to us saying, I do SIPs in 2 REITs mainly for regular dividend income. What is the growth opportunity in this space? Okay, so, particularly for this, do you want to take that question?
Sure. So basically, India today, the 4 REITs which are available, the total market cap is close to $10 billion. So I think so there's a great opportunity. The only thing which the panelists also mentioned, the awareness needs to be there. So what I think the SM REIT will do is, the awareness would be there because the asset size, now they have limited between 50 to 500 crores. So because of that and our ticket investment of 10 lakh rupees, the awareness of the entire REIT would be spread more so that the return opportunity would be extremely high post that.
Okay. Gaurav Bhai has also written to us. He says the problem is no residential or holiday home is at par with inflation. Forget about comparing with the ROIs of commercial real estate. It's not even at par with inflation. I think he's talking about holiday homes, and I agree with that point. If my asset doesn't even beat inflation, why would I invest there?
Absolutely. So again, to answer to what Gaurav mentioned, as a life last 1.5 years, our assets have been generating more than 75% occupancy, which leads to a return of close to 7 to 9%, and in places like Goa, Alibag and Lonavala. So I think so the awareness needs to be there. There needs to be a lot of things to be done on the rental side of the property. So I think so the difference between commercial and holiday home is you need to look at a player in holiday home who's able to generate that kind of rental yield. Whereas in a commercial REIT, you already have a tenant who's giving you a fixed rental. So I think so here, the variable becomes who's the operator who can generate that kind of rental yield for you.
So that's a bit more risky, right?
Yeah, that's risky. So you need to be very careful on choosing what REIT or who's the operator who's going to operate your assets so that the right rental income can be generated out of it.
Okay, that's a very interesting point. Praveen Chaudhary has written to us. I think he's referring more to the commercial part of, fractional ownership. He says, can this lead to predatory corporate buying in real estate assets and pricing out of end-use buyers? Can this also lead to predatory rental practices like the ones that are common in the US? Now, this was my question as well. Sudarshan, I want you to come in on this. If if this fractional ownership opens up in the commercial space, do you think there's a possibility of predatory buying?
See, today let me just speak for myself first. Right? Today we manage about 1,600 crores, 1,700 crores in terms of AUM. Now, in a city like Bangalore, it's probably one building which has more than 400, 500 such buildings available for you to buy, right? So, predatory buying in the US is a very, very large thing, especially in home buying segment over there, where there's a very large opportunity, which a lot of these listed entities have seen this opportunity. India, in general, we are 50% developed, in my view. For us to reach that $7-10 trillion mark, what the economy will be there, 50% of India needs to be developed. Us as REITs put together, like I said, 4 REITs today are about 1.3, 1.4 lakh crores, which is less than, about close to about $10-15 billion or $20 billion tops. The market opportunity is probably 100 times of what it is as of today, right? So given or will be for the next 5-10 years. So given an opportunity, the amount of money which has to be with 5, 7, 10 players who are going to run the show to ensure that predatory corporate buying can happen and can inflate those rents are going to be very, very difficult in a large way. And in general, the occupiers in India are very, very smart. And if given an opportunity, they'll keep swapping offices if they find something cheaper also at any point.
Okay, that's interesting. I wanted to talk about asset tokenization as well with Anand. But before that, Gulam, I wanted your thoughts on what Saurabh was saying, right? Which is very important. If when you're investing in a REIT or when you're putting your money, you need to know who are the operators of those properties, who are the guys that are, responsible for that. Because as an investor, in any case, sometimes you don't know where to find such resources to understand how these properties are functioning. Sometimes these properties are in different cities altogether, different states. Then what do you do, especially holiday homes? What is the best way to approach it?
Well, to me, the most important part is, of course, branding. Like something which I wanted to bring up even earlier. When you're talking about the listed players, those 4 or 5 big REITs that you're talking about are big brands, whether it is Blackstone's or Brookfield, etc., are globally well-known players. And well, that's where your returns are also slightly lesser than what if you go for a private REIT. So about, I think, 6.7 to 7 is what is the maximum range that these listed players are offering you as returns, whereas the private players are going even touching double digits. So there's a difference. Now, that's exactly where earlier we spoke about the risk factor also. And that's what people are actually getting the returns for. So if you're going for, like most of these names that you're right now talking about are not as well-established brands. Like even the concept of holiday homes, we are talking about pricing, variations, etc., etc. Especially talking about Goa, in peak seasons, you may not actually find a good property even if you're paying 25,000-30,000 rupees a room night. And that's where pricing can go up and down. And that's where some good players will have to ensure that prices remain above a certain range. And that's where branding comes in the picture. So for me, right now, the big confusion, time to come in next short to medium term, will be how do I recognize or identify these brands? These brands have a long way to go to compete with or compare with the global brands like Blackstone's, etc. So in the meanwhile, you have to continue to put your focus on educating people and creating brand awareness.
Okay, there are many companies. Like quickly, Gulam, last word from your end, since you said brands are important. There are many companies doing the work, right? There's, of course, Strata, there's HBits, there's Alive. I mean, for the average investor who's starting afresh, where do they look? What do they look at?
Honestly, I am not in a position to comment on this right now because it will be like proposing or putting my money behind something on this show. But as I said, it's just about right now, none of these brands are as big compared to what the others are. And I would still believe that going forward also, next couple of years, we'll have a tough time to sell this concept.
Okay. So you're saying there's still more education that's needed awareness that's needed in this space, right? Hopefully, we are bringing that awareness to the table to our viewers and our followers. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We've run out of time, not out of questions, but thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Saurabh, for coming to the studio.
Thanks a lot, Sonia. Thank you for having us here.
Okay, well, with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Smart Money. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great weekend.